down their video. That way we don't take a big chunk of the broadband. I think it might be better. Okay, so I hope everybody can see the presentation I'm about to share with you. So if you have sailed Sunfish in the past, you probably met me at the race course. My name is Eduardo. I was born in Spain, 1982. In 1972, I'm sorry, still in age, years from my birth. So in 1982, I moved with my family to Venezuela in the Caribbean Sea. And we settled there for many, many years. And at some point in 1984, I enrolled in sailing classes in this beautiful bay of Puerto La Cruz, which happened to be the site of the Pan Am Games in the year before. So, I mean, for those who have never been to the Caribbean, I mean, warm weather, temperatures are, 85 to 95 average all year long. So no snow, no cold weather. Of course, it's hot, but I was lucky to live in an area where we had breeze pretty much every day. So we had the opportunity to be on the water pretty much anytime we wanted. We didn't have to experience, cold winters or really hot summers with no air, no wind. We had the ability to go in the water any day we wanted. So it was a great place for any sailor to get started in the sport. So I specialize in Sunfish. I have sailed, as Deb mentioned, I have sailed other boats. I sailed radials for a little bit. I crew J24s. I sail a little bit of Flying Scots here after I moved to Alabama. I sail with the Gulf Yachting Association racing fleet, pretty competitive, pretty good fleet. But mostly my forte for over 25 years was Sunfish. And as you can see there, I won the world several times, the North Americans and the Pan Am Games. Well, so many people have asked me, well, why did you wasted your skills or your talent in the Sunfish class and didn't try any other boat? Well, pretty obvious. Starting sailing in Venezuela was not per se a traditional sport, not that it's a super traditional sport in the United States, but Sunfish, Venezuela hosted the Sunfish Worlds in 1971 and 1976. And there were so many of these across the whole country that it was an affordable one design to get everybody started. We had many boats, and it was a cheap solution for those who had, especially for a kid my age, 11, 12-year-old kid. We had no optics. So Sunfish was all we had. And so our sailing coach, Humberto Costanzo, devised a plan for winning a Sunfish World Championship. And what I want you to take out of this is that, if you have an enthusiastic group of sailors and you have big dreams, it doesn't matter what boat you're sailing. I mean, if you come up with a plan with your fleet, you're able to collaborate and you have the ability to devise a plan, waypoints and how are you going to get there, what's needed to improve the fleet. I mean, any one design will help achieve that goal. So Humberto, our coach, who unfortunately passed away 3 years ago, he came up with this plan, and as you can see there on these bullets, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to beat the other local yacht clubs. And then we need to start winning events nationally. But the end goal was winning the World Championships. To be honest with you, nobody thought I was going to be the one that collected all the success. I was lucky to have a big support team and training partners on the local fleet who were just as fast or even faster than me. I just happened to be the one that worked a little harder to achieve those goals. You know, I had big dreams of, of winning the world since I was a little kid, reading the publications, reading the Windward Leg, which is the Sunfish Class magazine. So I said, well, I think I can do this if I work hard enough. So Humberto's plan of winning the World Championship in that year actually became a 7-year plan when I won my first Worlds in 1993, which was, of course, a surprise, not only to myself, but to my whole family. My mom told me, honestly, you know, I never thought you would win. I never thought you had it in you. And I said, well, thanks, ma'am, for the confidence. But I didn't do it alone. And the key to this was the collaboration on the fleet with all my teammates and training partners. And of course, having a coach really was a key. But we worked really hard. A big influence to our program was a past Sunfish World Champion, Derek Fries. He is an amazing friend and influence, not only myself and our whole program. Derek brought a Sunfish book in the mid-80s called Sunfish Successful Racing. You can buy it online, and it's part of another bigger book called the Sunfish Bible. Well, that's how we learn. My coach Humberto knew about sailing. We learned a lot of sail trimming, training, maneuvering, tactics, you know, sailing with techniques, sailing downwind, jiving, maneuvering, practice drills. But Derek Free's book was the key to learn a little bit more about the Sunfish and what is it that, what was the fleet, mostly the U.S., was doing. You know, because back in the day, that's where most of the world champions came from, the U.S., the Bahamas. So we didn't start from scratch. We got this book, we learned, and then we improved our own system. So in 1991, we decided to attend our first international regatta in Florida. I finished third. One of my training partners finished 10th. So it was like, and everybody was shocked. It was like, hey, who are these guys coming from Venezuela? We never heard from, we didn't even know they sell Sunfish down there. So we went to the Worlds in 91. I think I finished 10th. My training partner, Mauricio, finished 7 or 8. I don't remember. So during our first year, we learned a little bit, but we figured we needed something else. And this is my advice to you. Say you want to put your plan together at Arizona Yacht Club or your home club. Well, you can do a lot of drillings, you can do a lot of collaborating, you can share info with other sailors, which was key. But at some point, you need to invite a guest who can teach you, you know, give you a couple of aha tips that you might not have considered. So Derek was invited to our sailing school in Venezuela in 1982. And the year after that, I won my first world championship. I didn't really learn everything that, you know, Derek had in his clinic, but the part about strategy, reading the wind on the water, which is actually really good. That's what I recommend you, that you read that book. If you have a chance to see it. It was very important to me. He gave us an amazing slideshow with teaching pretty much how to read the wind in the water, because he's a lake sailor. So, you know, it was a completely different game to me. And that got me a little extra to take my sailing skills to the next level. Well, the following year, yes, I was lucky enough to win the Sunfish Worlds in the Virgin Islands. Funny thing, you know, I had been training to sail better and better in light air. At the end of the day, I didn't win the regatta until the wind picked up on the last couple of days. But again, you know, bringing an expert to your fleet can really help improving your skills. So we didn't do it all alone. So, and the keys to success, and this is something that I have applied in my life, is you know, well, what is it that you want to achieve with your sailing or any other goal? I mean, it could be fitness, it could be work, it could be your healthy habits. You need to be motivated to do it. And that's what drove me to be better. I mean, when I was 18, 19 years old, my training partners, you know, they weren't as serious as me. We were all good sailors, but I was the one that didn't go out on Saturday evening to go, you know, partying and drinking and whatever. I really went to bed early, and I was up on Sunday morning ready to practice again. So the discipline was what helped me get to where I got. It was by working harder and harder and harder. At some point, I was sailing 6 times a week. Literally, I would wake up in the morning, I would work out, I would do my cardio, and then I would go out on the water for 3 hours, 6 out of 7 days each week. And then after sailing, well, I go to the gym now to do, you know, strength training, you know, to improve my fitness. So there was no way. I mean, I had no desire to lose. The only desire I had was.
I'm not looking very good, but okay, all right. I'll do this. I'll save you the trauma.
Okay, so anyway, the key to success it was to be motivated, to be ready to be no play sales every single day for practice and work hard, and of course integrity, which
wow.
It's so, you know, think about these 3 slides. Do you really have a desire to succeed at any level in your sailing? Well, you can prepare, you can set up your own goals and see where you want to get. I mean, to me, it was very, very simple. The end game was winning the World Championship. So I had nothing else on my mind. And what motivated to me was that I wanted to be in the who's list of who's won the worlds. So the key was, you know, getting up at 6 in the morning, work out. There was no summer breaks. There was no Christmas breaks. And it was just literally every day in the water. Now, at some point, I started to get a little better, but I have a lot of setbacks during my career. Well, the key was identifying, well, what are the things that I am good at, okay? Well, am I good upwind? Am I good downwind? There were things that I could identify that weren't working for me. And there were things that I could identify that I was better than other sailors. So the key was to improve on those things that I wasn't good at. And for example, tactics was always very hard for me because, you know, I tended to make a lot of irrational decisions on the race course. But I figured, heck, you know, I'm not great at tactics, but if I spend a lot of hours on the boat, I might be able to get faster, improve my boat handling tactics, and maybe get there. So I literally exploited the speed factor to be a better sailor. So the key was, well, practice, go upwind, go downwind, and on those long 3-hour sessions, no matter how breezy it was, you know, we would go upwind for an hour until we were tired that we couldn't breathe anymore, and now we go downwind and start playing with the waves. I was lucky to be on a body of water that had amazing conditions, like a really short chop that would allow you to not only be much better going upwind and steer the boat through the waves, but going downwind, it was key to make everybody in our fleet much faster downwind sailors. So we learned how to do what they call the S-curve, sailing by the lee, because we thought, hey, you know, going upwind, we do a lot of tactic work, and you know, if you make a mistake, well, it's hard to recover. But going downwind, that's where you make most of your gains. So we made a big effort on getting much better going downwind. So bottom line is, you know, and as I put in this slide, I don't know if you can see it, but you know, think of your sailing, think of the last time you sailed, and think that, well, is there anything that you could do better to improve your sailing? And I think that's that's what separates, you know, some of the top sailors today from the pack. I mean, these are the guys that are capable of spending more time, identify their weaknesses and take it to the next level. So to me, that was the key. It was no secret. It was just practice, 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 and try to be the best I could be. So the other part, you know, the integrity, and I have a funny anecdote. When, you know, I had a really good teacher, I hated learning about the rules. I hated ending up in a protest room. I did a few times and I got DSQ, but it's always better finishing the race on the race course, or if you have to do a 720. So the integrity factor, and that was I had the best coach to learn how to, you know, have a very clear moral code. I remember before winning my Sunfish first World Championship, coming into the last race, it was between me and a sailor from Bermuda. And it was going to be whoever beat each other. If I beat him by 2 votes, I was going to win the Worlds. He had to beat me by 4 votes. Well, I started behind him. All I had to do was literally finish behind him. So I tagged, but apparently I tagged too close to another boat. This boat protest me, hell protest, because said, well, you tagged too close, you didn't keep clear your protest. I knew I was a bunch of bullcrap, but I said, well, I had to be cold and not let my emotions take control of me. I told myself, well, I know this is foul play, but if I continue sailing, I will probably finish, you know, within the points I need to win the Worlds. But if I get protests with witnesses, they'll take me to the protest room and I'll be thrown out of the race. My only chance was taking the 2 penalty turns and see what happens. Well, when I took the turns, I fell like from 4th, 5th place to the low or to the high teens, probably 18, 19, I don't know, so far behind. But I was so upset and anxious to win the World that by the time I rounded the weather mark, we were still sailing with triangle courses. So I had no other choice than just to be fast, and that's what I did. I took a 720, penalty turns, and rounded the weather mark pretty deep. And by the time I rounded the lure mark, I was right behind my contender, and he probably he gave up, and that's how I won the first Worlds. Pretty much integrity and you know, there is no way. I mean, I had no other way to do it, and that was a big lesson that has always been very important. Every time I look back, I said, you know, that was a key moment for me to, you know, to become the person that I am today. So, and this is one of my favorite quotes from Paul Elstrom. And if you don't know who he was a four-time Olympic gold medalist, an amazing champion. And he's saying, you know, if you know, when you lose the respect from your competitors, you haven't won the race. So, bottom line, this is key to me, you know, to be honest and you know, fair play. When I was sailing Sunfish in the 90s, there were stories of, you know, some competitors doing questionable things on their boat. I was lucky enough that every time I came to the United States to do racing, I couldn't do anything to my boat because I was chartering a boat. So that didn't bother me, but, you know, it's something that it's important to me, integrity and a moral code, to make sure that you can win fair play, no foul play. And so anyway, I just wanted to do a little quick intro about me, and I'm gonna let Deb take over this, and you know, I can share a few tips, or if you have any questions, or Deb has some questions, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. We're going to go ahead and open it up for some questions here. Could you go ahead and stop?
You want me to stop my video?
Sure. just turn your
Hold
screen
on, if
share
I can
off.
find it.
Ah,
One moment, one moment.
I can probably do that also.
I have a question.
Oh,
There we
there
go. I have it. All right. I'm going to invite all of you to go ahead and bring your videos back online. So as you ask questions, we can go ahead and see your face with your name. Go ahead, Les.
What was your weight when you won the first time and the second time?
My body weight?
Yeah.
When I won in 93, I was 68 to 69 kilos. I believe that's like 155 pounds. 160.
Okay. And how tall are you?
5'5", not very tall.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay.
So people have asked me, hey, how do you do so well in heavy air? Well, it's not that I'm a super gifted person. I work really hard on the boat. I don't know if you can see my cam. Everybody that video conferences with me, that's actually fitness equipment. I'm not very active on the water these days, but that equipment gets used literally every day. I run in the morning, do a bicycle, and then I do a strength. So to me, the fitness part was always key, because when the wind picks up and your body responds and you can hike, then you can focus on the race. Once you start getting tired, then your brain starts malfunctioning, then you start making irrational decisions on the race course. So, the ability to race, the ability to sail 3 hours a day for practice and then go to the gym, there is no secret. You're going to get better and stronger. And I know some people only, say, well, I'll get stronger by sailing. Well, you got to do sailing, but you also have to do the fitness part. And nowadays it's better because, you have fitness advisors. It's a little different. Nowadays we did it on our own, but so I could succeed with a small body frame because I work harder than anybody else probably.
All right. I see that, Peggy, you have your microphone turned off. Did you have a question?
No.
Okay. Did anybody else want to jump in with a question?
I just want to make a comment. That makes sense. I actually have a rowing machine. I think it's very good for training.
There is one right there too. I have a bicycle, spinning bicycle, rowing machine, spin
Look at
rod.
that. Yeah.
I have everything. Because I always thought that, to win, now let's not, Sunfish is not an Olympic class, but, it's a Pan American class. People work really hard. When I did my last Pan Am Games in 07, we all work really hard. And if you want to win, there's going to be a time when you need to work with your fitness. And believe me, it's a sport at the end of the day. And when the wind picks up, your body needs to be able to hike. The Sunfish main sheet, it's one of the hardest. The Sunfish is one of the hardest boats to trim upwind when the wind picks up, because the main sheet, there is very little purchase unlike any other boat. The main sheet is a 2-to-1. So, that's where I have chronic tendonitis on both arms because of so many years of trimming the main sheet and not cleating, because we don't use cleats, so we use a ratchet boat. So fitness was the key for the most part.
Okay, I see Rob has his microphone off. Did you have a question, Rob?
Yes, I did. Hey, first of all, thanks very much for speaking with us tonight. You said you went out 6 days a week for 3 hours.
Yeah.
But certainly you had a plan for those 3 hours. If you go out and if I go out and just sail by myself, I'm not going to get any better. What are the things that you focused on, or how did you get better in those 3 hours?
So I wasn't alone every day. When I had a partner, we would focus on boat speed. Okay, we would work upwind and compare settings. This is when I go back to your fleet, right? The collaboration effort, it's key, because over the years we were learning the boat. Well, the Sunfish is a very tricky boat, and if you can see the picture here, for those that haven't sailed the Sunfish, you can say that it's an asymmetrical boat. The sail is fuller on starboard tack, and it's flatter on port tack because it overlays on top of the mast. So those 3 hours were spent differently depending on the occasion. when I had a partner, we would focus on a lot of wind speed and try to avoid, take advantage of wind shifts. So we knew who was going faster, you know, and then we wanted to play, well, let's set up a couple of marks, windward lewards, and do mark roundings and a lot of tacking duel to get better at ball handling. That was important too. The day that I was alone, I'd say, you know, if I'm alone today, I'm gonna do, I grew up in a big but protected harbor. So I think it's like 5 nautical miles. You could go upwind 3.5 miles. So on the days it was really windy, I would tell you, I would just go upwind literally for an hour until I could hike no more, just to build up the stamina and get stronger. So every day was different. But, you know, during the lighter season, because in the tropics, you don't have the seasons, but you got the hurricane and the dry season, right? The hurricane season, the wind tends to be a little lighter. Well, we stay closer to the shore, probably, you know, sail around the marks and do a little bit of both handling and speed. But when you are alone with heavy breeze, so it was a little bit of exercise every day. When I was alone, of course, I had to be careful not to have a breakdown and end up, you know, being drifting away to the other side of the coast where I lived. Comparing boat speeds was key for learning, for improving our downwind skills, for sure. So there was a little bit different every day. And on occasions, our coach, mostly during the weekends, our coach was with everybody, because during any given weekend, we would have 15 to 20 sunfish on the race course. So we would do college-style races, and then we would work on tactic situations. So, I mean, we had everything. We had good weather. We had, you know, we were really close to the sailing venue, you know, 10-minute drive. So we had everything to be better, but we could do something different every day. But the plan was always to be the best we could be. So it was going to be spending a lot of hours on the boat. And of course, we help each other with toning, rigging, because, you know, and really sharing tips. Because, you know, if you wanted to build up the fleet, and this works for everybody, you want to build up your local fleet, what's the point of you going to a national championship and then, well, I learned these few tips, I'm not going to share them with the fleet because they'll beat me. Actually, what you want to do is share that new learnings with the rest of your fleet so that it builds up the level, and, you know, you build up the level all together. So that was crucial. So there were definitely many things you can do over the course of a week, but it depends a lot on the conditions and the situation, how many people were on the water at any given time. But definitely a lot of work on boat speed and boat handling, right? The tactic part could be done, you know, around the marks, you know, studying race situations and, you know, protest and analyzing tactic situations with the coach. So we did everything to prepare for a major event.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, Brian has a question for you. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, hopefully people can hear me. Eduardo, I wanted to know, can you talk a little bit about the difference in your experience between racing a laser and a sunfish, and how it compares to race a regular hull and a hard chine hull?
Well, the boats are truly different. You know, the laser, you know, the sail, the boom, I mean, everything is on the same position, right? The mast is the same. So pretty much there is no, in a laser, when, you know, there are certain conditions and everybody sails upwind, you know, block to block, pretty much everybody has the same setup. And the sunfish is completely different, because based on your body weight and your sailing technique, you have a broader range to set up the boat and depower the boat, you know, much sooner. There is something in sunfish called the Jens rig. It's a way to allow the upper spar bending a little more so that the sail depowers and the leech opens up when, you know, it allows you to feather the sail more easily in heavy air. To me, the way I saw, comparing the two one designs going upwind, I would say the laser, the differences between two competitors were smaller than in a sunfish. Like in a sunfish, if you develop a good upwind technique based on your sailing technique and the way the boat was rigged for those particular conditions, you could make more ground than on a laser. On a laser, you know, when the wind picks up, most people trim block to block. If you have sailed the boat, pull the Cunningham, you know, a little bit of, you know, preset the boom band depending on the wing. And you do probably work your body a little more on a laser, hiking, you know, kinetics, you know, working with the waves. The Sunfish, first of all, is a more forgiving boat because of the way the rudder blade is designed. The laser has pretty much vertical, you know, the rudder comes all the way down, right? It's at a vertical angle. The Sunfish has a swept back rudder. So if you make a couple of mistakes, the Sunfish is more forgiving. So, but you can make more grounds going upwind. But you know, at the end of the day, as the wind increases, the two boats behave the same because you gotta depower, you gotta hike, and you gotta use your body for, you know, rocking or using your body to, you know, say, sit the hull properly on the waves, you know, especially when it's choppy. Some people say, well, you can sail the Sunfish because it's a hard chain. You need to hill it because, you know, well, not necessarily. To me, I sail the boat in a certain way that my goal is always neutralizing weather helm. So I'll probably sail the boat even in light air, flatter than most people because I don't need to have that much weather helm to fill the boat. And if you sail, so, you know, laser and Sunfish, very light air, you're going to hill the boat because you got to induce that weather helm. You cannot oversheet the main ship, right? Because you're gonna stall the boat. So to a certain extent, you know, regardless of the way they are rigged and designed, there are probably more similarities than differences. Going downwind, I gotta be honest with you, I switch back and forth between the two designs, and I would sail actually. I tried sailing laser full rigs for a bit. I was sort of campaigning in '96 for the Atlanta Olympics. You know, at 5.5, my body wasn't built to, not that I was too small, my body, I get hurt easily. I could not keep up with the fitness required to sail the boat, but I sail a lot of radial, which to a certain extent behaves similarly. You hike, and going downwind, sailing radial made me a much better Sunfish downwind sailing because it's less forgiving. If you make a mistake going downwind, you know, you slam on the tiller or you turn the boat too soon away or into a wave when you're surfing downwind, or with the laser main sheet, which is a 3-to-1 main sheet. If you pump too soon, you stall the sail, the boat really slows down. And it's like you're putting the parking brakes on. The Sunfish is more forgiving. So sailing the two boats, all, you know, at different times made me a better Sunfish sailor. So yeah, I say they are, I honestly, when the wind picks up, the boats behave more similarly than when it's light air. Anything else?
Yes, Emery has a question for you. Go ahead, Emery.
Hey, thanks for being here and sharing all this. You know, I really love the integrity and focus sharing that you had. I know for a lot of us, that's a big reach to have that kind of dedication. So good for you. But locally then, as we're building fleets, whether it's Sunfish or otherwise, what have you found that's kind of the focus areas to start with as we're building participants in our fleet? Do we, you know, is it making sure that first they all have good boats and that everything's tuned right?
Yeah.
The tactics, the you know, handling and maneuvering and tacking, you know, how you go through the physical mechanics of your activities. Where should our fleets start to try and, you know, raise the quality of everyone so our competition is better?
I think you should start with, if I was to build a Sunfish fleet, I would start by making sure, yeah, everybody has a boat that doesn't leak, everybody has a racing sail, everybody has a composite foil, and the fleet kind of understands how the rigging works, all right? Because if you want to compare the speeds on the fleet, you got to make sure people, and this is the weird thing about a Sunfish, this would not happen on a laser. It would probably be more noticeable on J24s because J24s, for example, or any other boat requires more tuning, right? and there is a lot of hours to be spent on boat preparation. But let's talk about a simple one designed like a sunfish. Yes, I would make sure that everybody understands the A, B's, and C's of sunfish rigging, because there is a lot of that happens, you know, that little piece of brass that connects the lower boom to the mast, it's key for going upwind and balancing your weather helm. But then how do you position the halyard? Because that dictates how high the center of effort above the deck is. So once you get a base set up for the whole fleet, well, people, you know, you're going to have then a broad range of different body weights and strengths, right? Well, I think you should, you know, if you want to collaborate, well, you got to teach your fleet. Well, this is what you do in heavy air. You slide the power the boat this way, Cunningham outhaul, main sheet, gooseneck position, right? And then how does it work? Because, you know, I've seen a lot of people, you know, going out there. I've done clinics a few times, and, you know, they see a couple of white caps and people, all of a sudden they just crank on the Cunningham for no reason. And people say, well, what are you? And I say, why do you pull on the Cunningham? Well, it was windy, but people don't know what they do it. I mean, there is a lot of books out there about sail trimming. Remember, every time you pull an adjustment, the draft of the sail moves in that direction. When you pull on the Cunningham, the draft moves forward. When you pull on the main sheet, the draft moves up. So your fleet needs to learn, well, the basic of sail trimming and how it works and how it affects your weather helm. Because at the end of the day, every fine tuning, every adjustment you make in the boat is just to keep you from steering upwind overplaying the tiller. I mean, ideally, when you go upwind, you flatten the boat, you get into a comfortable field, trim the main sheet, and you're going to trim the main sheet as hard as you can. You're going to avoid stalling the boat, but you need to understand the basics of sail shape and what happens when you trim on the main sheet. So that's what the first thing I would do. I would try to make sure boats are okay, they don't leak, no bendy spars, everybody has the same foils, okay? And once you get the fleet to a certain level where you can, everybody knows how to trim as close as similarly as possible, then you can start working on upwind drills. You know, you get 2 or 3 boats. You don't need to get the whole fleet of 10 boats. Get 3 boats, 4 boats together. Hey, let's go upwind. Let's practice oversheeting the main sheet. We did a lot of these exercises. Oversheet and see how much time you can hold the boat without stalling, you know, without drifting away, but at a sustained boat speed. And, you know, at some point there is going to be somebody that stalls and starts, you know, falling back. Well, what do you need to do? You need to slow down and allow that sailor to catch up and say, hey, let's just do something, you know, maybe get more separation. But I would try to do these kind of drills to make sure people understand the A, B's, and C's of trimming. Boat handling. Honestly, boat handling, you don't need a coach to learn how to tack. How I started, yeah, my coach told me, well, you should try to do this. You should try to roll tack the boat in lighter, harder, roll tack less, pronouncing heavier because you're going to capsize. But at the end of the day, it's all practice. So you throw a little inflatable mark and you can do a lot of practice. Mark roundings, windward roundings are important because you need to learn. I work on these things on my clinics. Power the sail up when you're going down. When you're coming upwind, say under moderate conditions, well, release the outhaul, release the Cunningham. You're on a laser, release the boom band. People just round the mark and go downwind with the rig completely depowered. So you're sailing downwind with the parking brakes on. The sunfish, much simpler than a laser, but works the same way. You need to power it up. And then you go to the lure mark, you do all these drills, but you also need to preset the boat to go upwind. How many times I see a sailor at major events rounding the lure mark, and it's been 2, 3, 4, 5 boat lengths. They are still fighting to get their boat preset for going up, and they're like fighting to pull the Cunningham. So the other part is, well, boat preparation. Not only I need to know that my boat is in perfect condition, I need to make sure all the lines and controls work, because, you know, I see so many people rigging an outhaul, and I've seen this on lasers and sunfish, but then they try to pull the outhaul and it doesn't run because the boom is all dirty. So, I mean, there's a little bit of everything. I think the point of collaboration is that the fleet helps each other so that you can build up into something. And at the end of the day, you want to be the leader. Well, you need to share more, especially with those that fall behind. And a good idea would be, if you have 10 guys, you have 5 guys that are the best. Well, each guy picks a B team and you all collaborate. And at the end of the day, that's how you build your fleet. If you have a coach on the water, of course, that was the advantage we had. You make things better. But at the end of the day, I would focus here boat preparation, understanding the rigging, and a lot of drills, both boat speed and boat handling. I mean, that would be a good way to get start building up your fleet. And believe me, you're going to sail Flying Scots, you're going to take Thistle. There is a lot of material out there to read, to share in a group. And then at some point, you bring somebody to teach you, because like what we did with Derek Fries in Venezuela. Well, we collected all this knowledge, but at some point you're going to need the 5-star expert that is going to give you the final push, and that's a key factor for your local fleet.
That's really good structure to that. Thank you, Eduardo.
Okay, are there any other questions that anybody has?
Hey, Eduardo, this is Tim Mitchell. I'm a proud Sunfish owner and really appreciate this information. I've got a brand new boat that's unfortunately sitting because of the pandemic, but can't wait to get back at it. So how do we talk you into coming out and giving us some of these clinics and discussions? I know Jeff.
I've been talking to Jeff, and we can definitely talk about this, offline. And
okay.
Yeah, when this zombie apocalypse is upon us, I guess once it's over, we can go back to normal. Definitely.
So we might be able to plan something in 2020 at this point, or sorry, 2022. I mean, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity for life to go back to normal. But there is a lot of material out there for Sunfish. You can go on YouTube, Sunfish Listserv. It'll get you started. So go to the Sunfish Class website, download the Windward Leg magazines. That gives you some idea. So there is a bunch of material out there that, can get you some ideas for sure.
Even some material I think you've put out there at the time or two, right?
My best friend and I, another former Sunfish World Champion, we used to have a coaching business all together, and I'm not doing it because I live 2 hours from the water. He still does it. Go to starboardpassage.com. There is some Sunfish material there. And we both it's a little, taller than me, but we rig the boat for the most part very similar, and he's won the world. So believe me, there's a lot of valuable stuff on that side too.
Okay. And my other question that I had for you is what, it sounds like you were pretty young when you were pretty competitive and had time and all the time in the world to do all this training. How old were you, or what was your oldest placement? Was this all in your 20s? It sounds like when you were at your peak, or
I had my own ons and offs. So I sailed really hard, and I won between 1994 and 2004. I won the worlds 8 times. And in between, I took breaks from Sunfish sailing. I was doing something else. I always wanted to go to the Olympics. And growing up in Venezuela, and trying to be an Olympic sailor wasn't easy. I had a big disappointment. I didn't have the money to put an Olympic campaign. I mean, back in 2004, I had just won the Pan Am Games a year before in Sunfish. I would have been granted a wild card to sail 470s. I just didn't have the funds to put 3 people in Europe, the 2 sailors on a 470 team and the coach, to live in Europe for 6 months. So I kind of got burned out. But then I took breaks. I stopped going to the Sunfish Worlds between 2004 and 2016 was the last time I went. I was more active in other major events, North Americans, but my main goal was winning the Pan Am Games, right? When I didn't care about the Worlds anymore, I made it my goal to win the Pan Am Games, and I won that last time in Brazil. Then I was semi-active. You know, I turned 40 in 2012. I literally walked away from the class in 2010. I came back in 2016. I came back with a plan to win the NAs. Yeah, at 44, I know it. I mean, I put a lot of hours on the water in Panama City, my former yacht club, with the same, you know, philosophy. Work out there, work harder, and yeah, well, I might have been in a little bit more pain. I didn't lose any of my skills, and you know, I could hike hard. So I mean, which was actually very was very relieving, because you know I was racing against the top sailors now, which are in the early 20s, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm still kicking their butt in heavy air. So you know, that's the beauty about sailing, right? You don't have to be in your 20s to be at top level. I mean, and there are other sailors my age. I mean, you see Paul Forster, he won the Olympic gold in 470s in his 40s. And there is, you know, look at Robert Scheid in the laser class. He's 48 or 47. He's going to go to to the Olympics in Tokyo next year, if they ever happen. So with the right fitness and the right preparation, I think sailors have a longer lifespan. Of course, in a double-handed or a triple-handed boat, the lifespan it's much broad. On a single-handed boat, when you depend on yourself, it's a little harder. So after 2016, I took another break, and last year I made a small, you know, I set up a small plan to go to the NAs. I still finished third, and like I hadn't lost my touch, and I lost a regatta because of errors in light air with the current. When the wind picked up, I was still winning races at 46. So I still have it now. Of course, I finished the race. I got to put a lot of ice on my elbows because I have tendonitis. You know, pain. You know, the pain is there, the physical pain. But you know, I can still do it. I wouldn't honestly. I wouldn't be able to sustain a world championship 4 days of sailing in over 20 knots of breeze, because I think after day 2, my body would be falling apart, because it's, you know, it's a fact, age factor can defeat, you know, the laws of physics and nature. But, you know, if you pick your event, then you might find the right conditions. I think I can still do competitively, even now in my 50s soon.
Sounds
you,
promising.
Eduardo.
Thanks for all the information, Eduardo.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim, for that question. That was a great question. Does anybody else have any questions? If they would like to unmute themselves, please do. We have time for 1 or 2 more.
I just want to thank Eduardo for doing it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure, Les.
Okay, Bob Naylor could not be here with us. Oh, go ahead.
Deb, hi, this is Joe. Hey, so Eduardo, I really have to commend you on this wonderful presentation, only because one of the things that has been fantastic about it is that as you were talking about all of these things that you were, you know, feeling and doing and stuff like that, anyone who actually is out racing there was feeling everything you were saying. So thank you. Thank you very much. What a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Deb, for bringing this dude in. This has been awesome. Any racer would absolutely love hearing his speech. Yeah.
So
Thank you for that comment, Joe.
thank you. Yeah, and you know, I'm gonna be honest with you. And after so many years on the water, and some people ask me, well, what do you do these days? I don't really sail much because I got burned out. I did it for so long when I was younger, and I live in a place inland, 2 hours from the water. There is a lot of sailing here on the Gulf Coast, but I'm just so late. I mean, my work, it's very demanding. And if somebody wants me to go sailing on a weekend, I have a list of potential excuses not to go, because there's probably a good Formula One race on TV or a good soccer match. And I'm at a point like I'm not motivated to spend as much time on the water, because I did. And I had you know, when I saw that my Olympic dreams had been derailed, I didn't abandon the sport, but I realized, you know, I don't want to be under the sun for the rest of my life. A lot of sailors are in the industry, and you know, they become coaches or they become sail makers. I just did a U-turn on my life, and now I work in a complete different industry. So, but you know, I look back and, you know, I made a lot of friends. My best friends are sailors, and I mean, it's fun to be invited to a place like this and just share some of those experience with you people.
Thank you, Eduardo. Bob Naylor was not able to be with us tonight, and so he asked me to step in, and he had a question for you that he had sent to me. And that question was, what top 3 suggestions, or 1 or 2, whatever you have, would you give to a young sailor, maybe just starting out in a college sailing program?
Wait, so here's the thing. So I come out from a place where there is no college sailing. In Venezuela, there's not even, I don't think there is any organized college sports like you would have here. But let's say I'm giving an advice to any young sailor. Well, when I was growing up, it was a complete different lifestyle than now. Now kids have video games, internet. It's a complete different world. I think the kid that wants to be better, he's going to let his parents know that he wants to be better. And I believe this is a collaboration effort between the parents and the kid. But you know, the parents need to tell the kid, if you really want to be good at sailing, and maybe if you want us to invest in your education and you want to do college sailing, well, these are the things you need to do, right? I believe kids these days have it much easier, but you know, I'm going to tell you based on my experience, right? When we grew up, we didn't have new boats. We used the boats from the sailing school. When the boats were leaking, we had to learn how to use a grinder, patch it with fiberglass, paint it, sand it, and go racing with it. Now it's a little more different. So kids these days, I guess, you know, it's like, well, it's part of, I guess, our lifestyle in the US now. You know, when it breaks, I pay somebody to fix it or I buy a new one. But it's definitely, it was a complete different lifestyle in Venezuela. So how to tell a kid what to do here is a little bit different for me because I don't share that common background. What I can tell our young kid is, you know, hey, I can tell the same thing that my mother told me and that my coach told me. If you want to be good at sailing from a young age, you need to take the sport seriously. And you need to be self-reliant. You need to understand you're going to be out in the water and not everybody's going to be friendly to you because you're going to be on the water with 20 other sailors. You need to let the good ones in, you know, let the good ones in, let the ground ones out, learn from mistakes and understand that, you know, kids, if they want to do well at sailing, well, then there is no tennis class or there is no equestrian and I see kids today that they have so many distractions. Their parents enroll them. Well, we're going to take you to art class, and then you're going to play baseball in the winter. You're going to play soccer in the summer. To me, sailing, if you want to be good at one sport, that's all you do. My wife is a former equestrian rider. That's the only thing she did. I think that my message to the parents and the kids is, you know, pick that one thing that the kid is good at and help them achieve their dreams, assuming they take it seriously.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. I'm sure there's quite a few people out here that have kids in the sailing program, and I think that's a great focus to have one event that they are taking seriously. All right, it's 8 o'clock, everybody. Want to send a thank you note to Eduardo. You can use the chat, and we're going to go ahead and sign off here. I've recorded this, so maybe we'll be able to do something with putting a little bit of this. Ciara, oh, she was waving, I think. Okay, I thought maybe she had a pressing question. So we just, on behalf of the Arizona Yacht Club, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's getting late there, and you're not going to be on the water tomorrow. You have a day job to go to.
Yes.
And we really appreciate Bob Naylor getting We appreciate Bob Naylor getting in touch with you and inviting you to spend this time with us this evening. So with that, I'm going to say thank you and good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
night.
Mucho gusto.
Good night.
Sonia, you can say thank you.
Mil gracias.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eduardo. Thanks for your time.